Dynamite!
So dynamite.
This is awesome! This is this, this is that, this is this! Hey everybody, have a great time!
I'm not one of these f***ing goof podcasters out there. I am Don Tony, Wednesday night, Dynamite! Wednesday night, Dynamite. My hands are all thumbs right now with these gloves on.
It's a Wario!
It's Wednesday night, everybody. What's up? I know Wario doesn't wear the glasses, but then I can't see what I'm doing. What's going on, everybody? Do you know they gave me one of these inflatable things so I can make my belly like this? Oh, no. My nose is so itchy right now. Anybody that has checked out my shows for the last 2-3 days, you know I've been battling a cold, a little bit shangada under the weather. But when I promise I'm going to do the costume for Wednesday Night Dynamite, you know I'm going to deliver. Strike a pose. So what did you all think of Halloween Havoc? I know some people out there were a little bit concerned that Io Shirai may actually drop the title tonight. You know, when we had the Scream costume person, you know, dressed up as Scream, helped Johnny Gargano earlier in the night, hit Damien Priest with the pipe, gives Johnny Gargano the that really cheesy prop of a tombstone that just shattered in 10,000 pieces. Everybody's like, who's under the mask? Well, I can tell you this much. We narrowed it down to a very select few because whoever it was had bazoombas. I think the question was it going to be Indy Hartwell or was it going to be Candice LeRae? So I thought NXT Halloween Havoc was pretty damn good. I honestly think this week WWE has a excellent chance of beating AEW in the ratings. There was a couple of things about Halloween Havoc tonight that I wasn't feeling, you know, as much as probably we should have. But overall, I thought it was a decent night. Decent night of wrestling, absolutely. But what's going on, everyone? It is Wednesday. Now I never followed Mario back in the day. I swear to God. When someone suggested last week, you know, you actually look like you'd be a great Wario. And I'm like, the hell's a Wario? You know, I know there was that Yoshi thing and the Mario and Luigi and stuff like that, but then when I looked at it, and I know he doesn't wear glasses, but when I saw it with the teeth and the eyes, I'm like, oh my God, I'll do it. All in good fun, everybody, all in good fun. Halloween is in a couple of days. I'm obviously too old to be trick-or-treating, but hey, you know, I figured, why not? Let's do it, have some fun. Best NXT of the year? Yeah, you know what? I tell you, one thing that WWE's got to reel in a little bit is, you know, their main events for titles, they kick ass. But you see tonight, Penta versus Kenny Omega, you know, granted that's not for a title, but it is whoever wins goes on to the finals at Full Gear to get a shot for the title. And if you notice tonight, it was a fun match, but they reel it in a little bit. And, you know, when people are like, oh my God, look, Finn Balor got an injury. Oh, Karrion Kross got an injury. Oh, this person got an injury. Oh, this person got an injury. People were really concerned, thinking that Candice LeRae might have seriously injured her shoulder tonight. And for all we know, maybe she did. I don't know. But then she goes through the ladders. gave me memories of Mia Yim not too long ago, taking that ladder shot in NXT. But, I think sometimes they got to reel some of these spots in a little bit. Obviously it wasn't a spot that injured Karrion Kross, but you got to be a little bit extra careful right now, especially that you have multiple people on the shelf. So, but we'll talk about that tonight, and we'll obviously talk about the two gentlemen that I posted right at the beginning of the show tonight that unfortunately passed away within the last 24 hours. And I tell you, both of them really hit home. If anybody checked out the Q&A that I did, the latest Q&A episode on YouTube, I forgot who sent in the question, but somebody had asked, like, who are some of the nicest people that you ever met in wrestling? Now, I know some of you out there who have been following me a very long time know that I have mentioned Tracy Smothers at least 50 times on the shows. But it was only about a month ago when we were talking about XPW in a little bit of detail, and I brought up, how not only cool Tracy Smothers was with me, and I told this part of this story on Monday. This is before he passed. And I had said on Monday, to me, Tracy Smothers was the coolest and nicest person I ever met, because there is a difference between being really nice and really cool. And I said that Monday. He was both. Who would have ever thought less than 48 hours later he would be taken away from this world? But he's out of pain. And I know that's kind of a generic thing to say. I have said it to loved ones, relatives who lost loved ones, my aunt, my friend, others. It's a safe thing to say, but it is so true. This man was going through horrible pain with cancer, lymphoma. Nobody wants to see him pass. But at the same time, though, do you want to see someone suffer for extended periods of time? It's just really raw. I remember when my grandmother passed away on my father's side. She wilted away to nothing. And, when she went into hospice, we all were like praying for miracles and this and that. And we just, please, you got to keep her. You got to help. And it got to a point where, a priest who had talked to my aunt and said, we have to think about her and her suffering. And of course, it is natural and normal to be a little bit selfish. Nobody wants to say goodbye to a loved one forever on this earth. Now, I do believe in the afterlife, and I believe one day, I will see my grandmother again. One day I will be able to hug my dog again. I would truly believe that. But, when you hear about, just all of the suffering that Tracy Smothers went through, he's out of his pain. And I think that's the one thing you could take away from this. Now, on Friday, I'll pay a little bit more of a tribute because to be honest with you, right now, I think it's a little goofy to be, getting into a little bit of retrospect, and I'll tell a little bit more stories of personal with me and him. So I'll do that Friday. Another person on Friday I am going to pay tribute to also is this man. And, I know a lot of you out there probably have no idea who this guy is. Once I say it, you're going to be like, no fucking way. How many times have I said over the years that we used to hang out with this guy that was like the agent for a lot of Lucha guys, like helping some Lucha guys work in the United States. And I always called him Mongo. I said he looked like Meatloaf and he was larger than life. He sat front row with me at the first XPW show where, they hired me on the spot, and I broke bread with him and Dorothy countless times. And you've heard me say over the years, and as recent as maybe 2 or 3 months ago, when Supreme had passed, and I had talked a couple of stories, and I said specifically, I haven't talked to Mongo in years. I hope he is doing all right. I don't even know if he's involved. If you remember, I told the story that I brought Mexico's Most Wanted, Damien and Halloween, to USA Pro Wrestling, and it was on my dime. Frank Goodman always wanted to team up Sabu and Jimmy Snuka as a fantasy team. And the thing was, they never had any really good opponents for the two. So, I don't know, this about, 15 years ago, I suggested Mexico's Most Wanted. And, I'm sure Frank knew them well, but, Frank is like, you really believe they would be perfect for them? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, if you want them in the company, you're going to have to, take care of the moolah, because if it doesn't work out well, he ain't paying these guys. So through Mongo, I got Mexico's Most Wanted into USA Pro. We had that fantasy match in Long Island. I think it might have been that Valentine's Day event. But it was so cool, and it was so talked about, that it made the Mexican magazines. It made Super Luchas and a few others, and I've brought up in the past that when it made the Mexican magazines, like, I rushed and bought a whole bunch of copies, and I'm like, look, Frank, USA Pro Wrestling is in Mexico. And he was happy, but he was also like, are they buying our VHS tapes? If we aren't shipping a whole boatload of VHS tapes to Mexico, then I honestly don't give a shit. And I don't blame him. He's a businessman. I still have those magazines. So on Friday, when I pay a little bit more of an appropriate tribute to Mike, I will take the magazines out of the archives, some photos, and we'll have a good tribute to both. They were both 58 years old, by the way. So rest in peace, Mike Frigerio. Rest in peace, Tracy Smothers. So just sad, man. Oh, and a few people are asking what happened with Mike. I didn't know about this until yesterday. He got a stroke earlier this month, and Dorothy, who was a wonderful woman, beautiful photographer. I can't tell you how many times I used to go out to eat with them after Jersey All-Pro events, XPW events, USA Pro Wrestling events, 2-3 PW events. I even think one Ring of Honor event. I didn't go to Ring of Honor because I despised the people that worked for the company at the time. But after the event, everybody would get together and go out to eat. And it was just wonderful times, man, wonderful times. But she had set up a GoFundMe 2 days ago because, they were concerned. They didn't think he was going to make it. But if he did, he would need a nursing home. And unfortunately, they thought he was going to come out of it. I'm assuming it was a coma, and he never did. He was brain dead, and he passed away today. So, man, you know how much that sucks for anybody that's followed my shows over the years? I know it sounds like a broken record, but how many times did I say over the years, man, I hope Mongo is doing well. I don't know if he's involved in wrestling. I haven't seen nothing. I hope he's doing good and this and that. And I always wanted to get in touch with him again. And he fucking died today. So anyway, before we get into both shows, because tonight's episode is going to be pretty much a recap of NXT Halloween Havoc, a recap of AEW Dynamite. We'll get into the card for Full Gear because I think we have 8 matches announced now, 7 or 8, and the card is stacked. I'll be honest with you. You know me. I'm a fan of all promotions. No promotion out there is perfect. And as Tommaso Ciampa said in his promo tonight, a lot of people like to, cut quotes on Twitter to get attention. I want to be entertained. Fuck getting attention. One-liner, insults and jokes and this and that. But the thing is that I enjoy all feds, and I will criticize where needed. And I don't take favoritism. Sure, I think we cover AEW a little bit more detailed because NXT uses almost the same formula all the time and is less eventful, when you add up all the things that transpire every week. But I honestly think this card on AEW, with the exception of one thing that happened tonight, and I know we're going a little bit out of place, but I got to throw this out there right now before I get into a couple of super chats, and then we, we'll talk the shows. AEW did it again. I don't understand why they do these over-the-top asinine stipulations that would almost, it makes a match either too predictable, the outcome, or you really strap yourselves in a bad situation. Cody, AEW hasn't even broke its cherry yet. It's still a virgin. I mean, it still hasn't broken his cherry, and Cody does a stipulation that if he loses the match with MJF, he can never wrestle for the title again. That stipulation, whatever that stipulation was at that time. Dumb matarats. Stupid moron. Because now now we know there will be a storyline in the future where if Cody wins, he can fight for the title again. You know that's happening. But the idea of eliminating from people's minds for the next year, year and a half, 2 years, that Cody can never fight for a title. Now you screw that up because you do a tournament, you know, you can't put him in it. Because like this Eliminator, I mean, how many of you out there, I'm not trying to show disrespect to Colt Cabana or Joey Janela or Sonny Kiss, but how many of you out there would have probably enjoyed a little bit more if maybe Cody was in the tournament instead of someone else? Now, yes, he's the TNT champion. He probably wouldn't have been in the tournament, but they've done other tournaments in the past, and he can't be part of it because he can't fight for the title anymore. How stupid is that? You leave the bait on the hook. You leave it, even though there's no fish biting right now, you leave the bait on the hook because maybe you get lucky and the float goes under the ground. You might back into an awesome scenario where, holy shit, Cody versus blah, blah, blah for the title. Even if a title doesn't change hands, man, how perfect would that be right now? And they put themselves in a bind. Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara. If the feud was fine. Yeah, it feels a little snake-bitten, but the feud was fine. I had said, and go back and watch if I'm lying, before they made that last asinine, dopey stipulation, I had said on these shows, I'm looking forward to Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara more than any other match right now. That was the last pay-per-view. And then they had that last stipulation. If Matt Hardy loses, he has to leave AEW. Motherfucker dopes. Why would you do that? Then what happens? The guy gets injured, and you know exactly what the deal was. All those times, Cody, we stick to our storylines. I can't fight for that's gonna stick. That's it. I guarantee you that went through Tony Khan's mind and everything. Like, oh fuck. Now we did a stipulation that if he loses, he can't cut. And the funny thing is that it was like a street fight. Falls count anywhere. It wasn't like just in the ring where you could throw the match out or a double count out. You couldn't even do a double count out because of the type of match it was. So you think they would learn. I know deaths come in threes, but don't be over the top moronic. This isn't 1985 anymore. It's the story stipulations. Is that coming threes now? Cody, Matt Hardy, Young Bucks. All right, let's do it like Cody, Matt Hardy, Young Bucks. Why would you do that stupid stipulation tonight? If the Young Bucks lose their match to FTR, they can never fight for the AEW tag titles again. Seriously, I know I'm just giving opinion, and I'm trying not to curse like I used to back in the day, but I have to say it right now. What are you, fucking stupid? Why would you do that? This card is so stacked. There is nobody out there that was like, you know, I'm not ordering AEW. No, not ordering AEW. No. You know, I'm not ordering AEW. But the Young Bucks said they'll never fight for the titles again if they... Oh! In that case, you need my money. Holy shit. How stupid could you be? Stop. You have such a solid card going. Why would you put yourself in that situation? I don't know. Look, if anybody out there disagrees with me on it, I seriously, please post your comments in this video thread and tell me why you think I'm getting it wrong. You know, when you have something really, really strong, and especially this pay-per-view where it's so solid, why would you put yourself in a situation where your big money makers could possibly not fight for a title? That's money. If you have any AEW fans that will say they turn their back on you because now they're changing their mind and Cody could fight for a title again or they do a storyline. If somebody says to you, no, I remember Cody. I remember that podcast when Cody said he would never, ever, 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 ever fight for the heavyweight title again. Never. He said never. That's it. He said my word is my word. Never. And now you're doing it? I'm not watching you no more. Seriously? Open the fucking door, kick them the fuck out, and if you get sued, I'll pay for the legal bills. Why do you do that? This isn't 1985 anymore when Jerry Lawler, and I brought that up before, Jerry Lawler would have a feud. If he loses the match, he'll refund everybody in the building. I'm sure there was some drunk people like, yeah, you know, we might get our money back tonight, you know, and it was stupid because then you root for Jerry Lawler to lose because you want your money back, and the storyline was the opposite. They didn't lose. Nobody got their money back. Back in the 80s, you could get away with it. Why would you do that now? You strapped Cody. You almost strapped Matt Hardy. And you're teasing that you could anchor the Young Bucks. Am I missing something here? Am I missing something? I mean, it actually makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense. Oh, God, that's so stupid. Stupido. Ha-ha! That was your filler. I wasn't planning on going a rant like that. But when I watched that Excalibur interviewing both teams and they got to throw this stipulation like that, I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. You like my eyebrows? I'm surprised they're still glued. They may fall off during the show. Like my makeup? Got hot pink makeup. I was a little concerned because I don't have makeup remover in this house. My fiance never wears makeup. So I said to her, I'm like, do you have any makeup remover in this house? She's like, no, use you know, the wipes, the Clorox wipes. I'm like, that's bleach. If I get it on my mustache, I'm going to look like Jericho, what he did with his forehead when he voted. By the way, I don't think he touched up his hair. Sometimes when you take a photo and you put it online and you put it in lower quality, it gets a little pixelated and it looks like you have a little bit of off color, but that's the pixelation. So for everyone that knows what I'm talking about, no, I do not think that Chris Jericho took olive colored, you know, Photoshop and said, yeah, let me put a little bit of olive over here. Yeah, because that matches the rest of his hair. Come on. People that stupid. By the way, before I get anything else, please answer me this. I looked all over the net. I didn't find one person that said this. I checked all the social media. Not one person. Now, I know what's going to happen tonight. If I end up, I was right, you're going to have all the goofs. They're going to say, oh, yeah, I knew. It was no big deal. I knew. I knew all along. When Michael P.S. Hayes got out of the van and interacted with Cameron Grimes, which I loved. Not because of Michael P.S. Hayes, but how many times have I said that Cameron Grimes looks like a low-budget Jimmy Jam Garvin? So when I saw that, like, if Cameron Grimes would have just been like, you know, like this, oh, man, I would have popped big time. Cameron Grimes would have become my favorite wrestler like this. But let me ask you a question. When Michael Hayes walked out of the van, I saw people writing everywhere that it was a zombie in the passenger seat. I thought it was Kevin Von Erich. Did anybody out there notice if that was Kevin Von Erich? Nobody, not one website, not nobody wrote that Kevin Von Erich was in that van. It looked like Kevin Von Erich. So I'm curious if anybody can confirm that for me. Because like I said, not one person online wrote that. I noticed after I wrote it, one person, like 2 minutes later, oh, is that Kevin Von Erich? I honestly thought that was Kevin Von Erich, which would make sense. Because, yes, the younger fans out there wouldn't really know this all that much. But the infamous feuds, the Freebirds, the Von Erichs, that feud is what started all this alleged bitterness online between myself and Jason Solomonster. If anybody remembers that whole thing. I'm not going to get into it now. There was never any bitterness, but people out there tried to create bitterness. But I thought the fact that they were both in the van together was a moment that they had the legendary feud and they're breaking bread with each other. So I honestly thought that was Kevin Von Erich. I could be wrong. So anyway, shout out to everybody. If you're enjoying the show, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Why do these gloves look... I'm a little pissed off. The Mario gloves... I still get the Mario mustache. The Mario gloves just had whatever. These have W's on them. So I was like, this is pretty cool. So if you are enjoying the show, I appreciate it if you give it a little thumbs up. If you're not enjoying the show, give it a thumbs down. If you enjoy the channel, subscribe, spread the word. You know the deal. Blah, 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 blah. And if you haven't checked it out already, I did the Q&A on Monday. And we're going to do one again a week from this Sunday. Remember, the next one is going to be after the election. So a few people who wrote questions early, who do you think our next president is going to be? Just remember, I'm answering those questions after the election. So shout out to Puffy89. Very obvious crowd piping noise on AEW. But I'm fine. We're in the middle of COVID. You know what I mean? It's reflecting, and I've brought this up before, it's reflecting how fans truly feel about some of these matches. I mean, Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae tonight. When they piped in that "This is awesome" chant, that really hard one, everybody online was popping big time for that match. It's appropriate. It's not where if someone just absolutely is getting ripped apart, he sucks, I can't stand him, this and that, and they're just trying to paint this entire picture that's not. I have no problem with it. It's better than that crappy, plain soccer noise. Someone turns heel, there's a revelation. Like I said, one of the most painful things to watch was when Bayley turned on Sasha Banks, and that segment was wonderful. But, instead of having that piped in real deep boos and everything like that, it's just like generic, plain soccer noise. And it takes away, man. It takes away. I mean, come on, you watch like kung fu films or you watch, fighting films. And, when they're connecting, that's why, they slap themselves when they do the super kicks and everything else, because they want some noise to emphasize the connection of the move. But, how many times over the years you see like fights and stuff like that, you actually hear, I mean, sure, when we watched, old time kung fu films, it was a little bit, way over the top. So I have no problem with it. Enhance the noise. I have zero problem with that at all. So, and thank you, Jay Carlos. Loves the costume. Like I said, man, they actually included this. Oh, I'm not going to blow it up because, first of all, as you can see, I'm already getting pink on the gloves, and I probably would like to keep this costume maybe for another day. Hey, who knows? Maybe, no, I'm not even going to say that. But they gave you this to inflate and wear it so you have like a big tummy. But the problem is I'm sitting at a desk And if I would have inflated that thing, it starts hitting the keyboard, and who knows, I accidentally disconnect something here, and everybody will be pissed off. But Friday, I was going to go like 80s gangster. Not gangster where they have the pimp hat and they're holding a machine gun. I'm talking about how we dressed in the 80s. You know, with the Sergio Tacchini jacket, with, you know, it opened all the way down so you see nothing but freaking chest hair, you know, and you actually see, I was going to pull out the old jewelry, just grease my hair back, really, really greased, maybe even dye it a little bit. But I don't know. Let's see how everything goes Friday, because like I said, I really want to pay a little bit of tribute. Oh, and by the way, when we do the recap of NXT TakeOver, I got to give a special shout out to Shahin Nuclear Heat Graphics, because when we do the TakeOver recap in a little bit, we get to change the template. So we can talk about that in a little bit. So, but thank you very much. You know, it's some people, you know, cracking wise-ass remarks towards me last week. Like, look at this goof dressed up as Mario. So what? It's Halloween. What, if I would have dressed up as The Undertaker, it would have been okay? Should I put the beard back on and pretend I'm Damien Sandow or something? By the way, how cool was that tonight? We had Wade Barrett dress up tonight as his favorite wrestler. I'll show you. There you go. Bad News Barrett. Bad News Barrett, I've got some bad news. I won the Halloween contest. And you have Joe dressed up as, what was it? Where's Waldo? I think that's what he dressed up as. I like the duo. I absolutely love the pairing. And I've pointed this out before. Look, it would be absolutely unfair to try to compare or judge Wade Barrett, Stu Bennett with Mauro Ranallo. But go on social media, go on Twitter, go in a search, type in Mauro Ranallo, and then hit latest. When you realize how few people have brought up, man, I really miss Mauro Ranallo in the NXT booth. You know, that's no slight against Mauro Ranallo. That just goes to show you how great of a job Stu Bennett is doing. He's doing a wonderful job right now. So, you know, I really enjoyed Vic Joseph and Stu Bennett's costume tonight. So, yeah, we didn't get the giant pumpkin tonight for Halloween Havoc. Elijah, I'm assuming you didn't maybe see NXT yet because Johnny Gargano sliced it. He sliced that son of a bitch. That was funny, man. Gargano, let me tell you something, man. Even though Candice LeRae did not win the title tonight, I brought it up here. Remember when we had that conversation about her career, and I asked everybody, how many years has Candice LeRae been wrestling? And nobody realized she's been wrestling, 18 years? And you had a lot of people cracking those one-liners on social media that she sucks, she's this, she's that, she's terrible. Why do they keep putting her on TV? It's garbage. Gargano sucks, this and that. And, you know, she has a little bit of a chip on her shoulder. You wrestle for 18 years, and you're in the big time, and you got these fly-by-nighters on social media that just looking to get the one-liner insults. You know, that pissed her off. So even though she didn't win the title tonight, I was really, really happy for her because she put on a phenomenal performance. And I got news for you. I am very, very happy for Johnny Gargano, two-time NXT North American champion. And Johnny Gargano gets his share of criticism. Look, make no mistake about it. Up until about 3 months ago, I've been saying on these shows, you know, I'm just not feeling Gargano. When he had that scare in the ring against, what was it, Ridge Holland, I think? And he still finished the match. You know, I always have respect for Johnny Gargano, but something just felt different. And ever since that match, I just basically, you know, I started really enjoying Johnny Gargano more. A lot of the segments at the house have been pretty cheesy, but I'm glad he won the title tonight that leaves me to two things. If you follow me every week on Fridays when I do the quarter-hour breakdowns, you see the trend. Damian Priest, with all due respect, and yes, he is still just touching the surface of what he's going to be. That guy is going to be a mega star, barring serious injury or some serious personal issues, which are not there. Let's be clear. But when we get into quarter hours every week, you see the trend that Damian Priest is not popping any type of ratings whatsoever. In a lot of times, the ratings are go down. And I'm baffled. I'm baffled because I see, this guy is going to be a big-time star. You just see it. I think he is main roster bound sooner than people expect. But I think the possibility that Damian Priest might end up becoming the next NXT heavyweight champion. I'm not making any guarantees. I know they're tonight kind of teasing Finn Balor still around. I'm still not convinced that this guy is going to be able to, really come back full-time in the immediate future. They have to do something, and something fast. You take the title off of Damian Priest at this moment, you have something else planned out. Would not surprise me that Damian Priest somehow ends up getting the NXT Heavyweight Championship. It is possible. Or maybe he's main roster, I have no idea. That pink, you know what it is? It's starting to sweat. And that makeup and the hair, and it's hitting my nostrils. It's annoying. But I want to try to get through this. We don't have too much to get into tonight. If you notice on both shows, there was only a handful of matches. We didn't have your typical 7-8 matches, and those 2, 3, 1, 2-minute matches. But monitor Damian Priest. Very curious to see what they do next with him. And monitor Finn Balor, obviously. So we will see. By the way, Pat McAfee officially revealed tonight that he was the person behind paying Ridge Holland with the car to take out Adam Cole. Bravo to all of you out there who suggested that early on, and I'll say this about Pat McAfee tonight. His promo was great, and I love the Pete Dunne swerve, but I will say this, as far as Pat McAfee goes, though, Pat McAfee needs to stop thinking. He sounded like he was doing his podcast. I mean, his promo was a little bit longer, focusing on the internet a little bit too much, focusing on the crowds a little bit too much. Like, he just went on and on. And again, I'm not criticizing him as a whole. You all told me give him a shot. He impressed me against Adam Cole. The guy obviously could talk, and he takes what he's doing with WWE seriously, and you got to respect that. But tonight's promo sounded like he was doing a podcast. I'm like, all right, keep going. Cut it off now. But it did lead to Pete Dunne coming back, and for a brief moment we thought, hey, maybe Kyle O'Reilly and Pete Dunne maybe challenging Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, and that might be the next feud. But no, Pete Dunne joins up with Lorcan and Burch, and I think this now leads to a feud with Kyle O'Reilly and Pete Dunne, because that's one thing that we talked about 2 weeks ago. What's next for Kyle O'Reilly? Don't know. So let's see where it goes. Maybe right now it's Pete Dunne, but I liked it. Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, and I have said this before, I'm not connected to them. And I don't mean connected like mafia or a family. I mean, like, I don't have that connection with them yet. And I don't think a lot of fans out there have that connection with them yet. Everybody respects their ability, but they're not personalities. You know what I mean? And when you're not a personality in WWE, it's a little bit more difficult, to get over. And plus, we've talked about their ratings. Their ratings have been awful. Let's be honest. It's not all their fault, but it's been dismal when they're on. that main event last week that didn't even break 600,000 viewers. Sure, we thought that the Undisputed Era were going to be getting the shot. But the point is, once the reveal was that Lorcan and Birch were getting that shot, people didn't even want to stick around to see if Breezango was going to retain. The ratings were just dismal. And if you remember, if you didn't see my Friday show, NXT last week scored 644. What was my prediction? 644. I was this close with AEW. So we'll see what happens. By the end of the night, I haven't thought about ratings predictions yet today, but adding Pete Dunne to Lorcan and Birch is a very smart thing to do, because, Lorcan and Birch on their own, just because they have the tag belts doesn't mean suddenly everybody thinks they're too cool for school and like, hey, I got to see these guys. Doesn't work that way. So, but yeah, I'm usually close with the ratings. I have to have 1 week where I nail both. I have to. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about tonight's show. Oh, by the way, a lot of you were DMing me and asking me, and you know me, I like disco. I like electronic music, techno, hip-hop, hip house, freestyle. I like all that. I'm not into like metal or death metal and everything like that. And even though I don't like metal, I like classic stuff. Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. God, I have all their albums. But I will say this. This artist tonight killed it on the solo guitar. I was tremendously impressed. And a lot of you out there were asking me, who was this? Well, I did a little bit of research, and it's a New York band called The Silencer. Now, unfortunately, because I don't know that band, I don't know who plays what instruments, but just basically on what I looked as far as pictures and stuff like that, I think the guy's name is Charlie Corietta. He might be Italian too, Charlie Corietta. So I might have the band member wrong, but I believe the band is called The Silencer. And that guy nailed it tonight with that solo. That solo was awesome. I tell you the truth, put that as a WrestleMania entrance for Damien Priest, add a little bit of, pomp and circumstance around it, I think people would be like, man, that was fucking awesome. I think it would remind people of Shinsuke Nakamura with that violinist that time. He did all this, that was excellent too. So, yeah, he does look like Zakk Wylde. And I'm not good at lying. For some reason, Zakk Wylde is not hitting my brain. I have no fucking idea who Zakk Wylde is. So, I mean, if I see a picture, I'll be like, okay, all right, I know what you're talking about. But, see, I'm not good at lying. I could have just said, yeah, he does look like Zakk Wylde. All right, well, let's get it. I know. I'm Wario. I'm supposed to be a schmuck, right? I'm supposed to be a jerk. I could be a real troll, but no more trolling. So anyway, Serena Deeb. Big news last 24 hours. I thought it was so cute when Thunder Rosa, addressed the dirt sheets and the tweet fuckers tonight. Oh, Thunder Rosa is AEW bound. She's WWE bound. She's here. Because she dropped the title. None of them have sources. None of them. They're just guessing. Those are guesstimates again, and people looking for attention. Serena Deeb beat Thunder Rosa at the United Wrestling Network event. And, got a lot of attention because Thunder Rosa has been on a major role. And, Serena Deeb was recently signed to AEW. So here you have an AEW contracted, not only wrestler, but a trainer winning the NWA heavyweight title. So right away, you get all those crazy rumors. And look, I think, and we've talked about it, we didn't need her to drop a title we've had this conversation already. Thunder Rosa will end up in either AEW or NXT, WWE. That's a guarantee. It's just a matter of time. But I look at this in a whole different way. a whole different way. I look at this similar to 1995, I think it was. It was either 94 or 95. You remember when we had Jim Cornette introduced to us Bombastic Bart and Bodacious Bob, and he brought in the NWA, I think tag titles or whatever it was, and on Monday Night Raw, we had some NWA matches here and there, and we also got, we might have gotten the Rock and Roll Express one or two times. Oh, I'm trying to think who else showed up here and there, and it just never clicked. But what you saw is WWE was having a battle with WCW. And, you know, WCW in 1995, they debuted Nitro. So WWF was looking for any type of buzz, momentum, and something a little bit different than WCW. And WCW was bringing in wrestlers from AAA, and you had, you know, obviously they signed a lot of AAA wrestlers to contracts. They took some people from ECW as well. And the point is that WWF and Vince McMahon was trying to create a little bit of buzz, bringing in NWA guys, and it fell flat. But the point is, in this case, AEW does not need NWA. AEW does not need New Japan, so to speak, because New Japan in the United States, yes, it has a nice little niche audience, but AEW is not desperate for talent. They have an awesome roster, and there's a lot of wrestlers who aren't competing right now because of COVID and everything going on. So my point is, and I brought this up before, because people always ask, what promotion do I think has suffered the biggest damage from COVID? And I've said it repeatedly, NWA. Ring of Honor, you know, was always small. I know some websites try to turn it into, the next giant promotion, and 15, 18 years later, they're still doing the same thing. You need WrestleMania weekend for Ring of Honor to draw over 1,000. Or, you understand what I'm saying? I'm not dissing Ring of Honor. My point is Ring of Honor is a small company already. They're a small company being a small company with their own niche, and it works wonderfully. They're not trying to be a big company that's a small company, and they're not a big company being small. Because if you're a big company being small, you're out of business. You're going to run out of money. If you're a small company trying to be big, then you have too many obligations and too many expenses. It's like someone who has, like an average job and goes and buys a mansion. You might be able to afford it right in the beginning, but, that job is not going to cut it. Sooner or later, it catches up to you. So as far as AEW goes, NWA has issues, big-time issues. You have them involved with the United Wrestling Network and everything, and these weekly pay-per-views, and, this happened on a pay-per-view. I mean, you saw everybody today tweet fucking about, Thunder Rosa is going to go here. You heard it here first. It's going to go here. If I say to you enough, everybody, you heard it here first. Don Tony's going to die. Sooner or later, I'm going to be right. I just won't be here to say, I told you. But the point is, it happened on a pay-per-view. They're trying to get a buzz to get you to buy the pay-per-view. So we don't know how long Thunder Rosa's titleless reign is going to be. This is all about business. So when you have everybody online using emotion, looking for attention, like she's going to go here, she's going to go here, that's why Thunder Rosa had such fun with it today. And she's like, where am I going next? The people online don't even think about the business side of it, And another thing is, Serena Deeb defends the NWA Women's Championship right after she wins it. This gives exposure to NWA on AEW television. And I know what some of you are going to say, well, AEW is a much bigger promotion right now. Why would they, use the NWA title? Because at the end of the day, Serena Deeb is still part of that company. So even if that title goes bye-bye, they still got Serena Deeb. So right now, this is to get a buzz on pay-per-view, and at the same time, they have somebody in AEW winning the title, which gives a little rub to AEW and gives a little rub to NWA. It's business. That's all it is. It's smart business. Nobody online looks at it that way. They all think, oh, she dropped the title because she's going here, she's going there. You know? I don't look at it that way. So, Jay Carlos, he might be in a minority, but he believed that Sifo's music used to make good music for WWE. Yeah, we talked about it the other day. You know, you see some NXT stars. Yeah, some of them came to the main roster. Keith Lee's music now. I don't have too much of a problem with it, but if you listen to it closely, it's basically like, okay, bye, Brock. When you hear dun, 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 a lot of it sounds like Brock. Aleister Black's music, you know, Aleister Black could tell you in every interview and smile with his pearly whites and say, oh, it's just, you know, it's not finished yet. It's not. Now Nikki Cross has different music. So Sifo's music, I know overall a lot of people didn't like it. You know, what was that rap star? How you like me now? You know, who was the president? Maybe when Obama put in Obamacare. I remember all the memes or whatever it's called where you would have pictures of George Bush and it would say, miss me much? Or, you know, so basically, I'm not trashing Obama. You know, my point is, you know, for everybody that always said, oh, Sifo's music sucks. Oh, they're horrible. Why is WWE doing something with them? Now you look at what's replaced it, and Sifo is almost like, you know, the contemporary Jim Johnston, you know? So, you know, and I tell you, man, a lot of you out there should really learn about Ruckus because he does the music for AEW. I follow very few people on Twitter. Ruckus is one of them I followed for a while. That guy the music, some of it may not be, you know, the best, but that guy works his ass off trying to give themes that reflect the wrestler themselves. You know, we've had some themes in WWE that you listen to the theme and are like, this doesn't even match the person. It doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't have any its own identity. And Ruckus is really going out of his way to try to make themes, you know, to reflect the identity of the wrestler. Go check him out on Twitter because he also posts teasers of some music that he's making, and he's always welcomes feedback. The guy's actually pretty damn good. So, yeah, Shaheen Nuclear Heat did that Macho Man Jake Roberts. But by the way, I think the anniversary might have been last week with the snake bite. You know, I always remember from that time when Jake Snake bit Macho Man when his arms were tied. The one moment that I always remember that night, that little blonde-haired kid with the spiked hair, that was, I know it sounds terrible, everyone, but I laughed my ass off at that time. It was disturbing to see the snake biting Macho Man. But when they panned the crowd and they put the shot of that little kid crying, I don't know why, but I just broke out laughing. I busted out a laugh. I mean, my medulla oblongata almost got it. I'm like, good, cry, motherfucker. I don't know why. That kid wasn't Brock Lesnar. So, but if you all never saw what I'm talking about, just Google it. And you see, I mean, it's cruel. I mean, I was an asshole when I was very young. You know, a lot of people are assholes and some people think I'm an asshole now still. But so that's it. But getting back to Serena Deeb. So Serena Deeb, you know, she cut a promo today on Dynamite. Obviously, this was added into the show later on because of the injury to Abaddon, which they weren't going to show. And they needed to fill it because tonight was pre-taped, obviously. So I think Serena Deeb's original match tonight was probably going to be for AEW Dark. And, you know, they put that in there. But, you know, Serena Deeb is women's champion, is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I know a lot of you remember her from the Straight Edge Society, but Serena Deeb is decent. And, you know, it's a shame that, you know, WWE... And I understand. I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, don't think about this enough. But when you look at the women's roster, especially on NXT, you go down the list. I can name 10 women in NXT that you know are either, top notch now or future champions, and WWE wants to remain focused on building them. Look at Raquel Gonzalez versus Rhea Ripley tonight. So many people, and it's funny because I think some people, I don't think they realize that they haven't deleted their old tweets, but Raquel Gonzalez has gotten a lot of heat from fans, a lot of criticism over the last couple of months. And tonight, she tore it up with Rhea Ripley. And I'm not saying that Raquel Gonzalez is suddenly going to possibly win a belt anytime soon. But you see what WWE's doing. They're not giving up on certain women. And now you got Ember Moon back, and you have some others. So you see someone like Serena Deeb, how does she fit in on the active women's roster? Oh, we'll make her a trainer. Oh, Thunder Rosa, well, we're going to put her as a referee. So it's very, very difficult for somebody to break through. That's why a couple of weeks ago, I said, I'd love to see Tessa Blanchard in WWE, but there's so many women that she would have to leapfrog to get a title. I just don't see that happening. So I think Tessa Blanchard would probably be better suited for AEW. You add Tessa Blanchard and maybe Thunder Rosa to AEW's roster, sure, some women, are going to be lost in the shuffle that they have now. My God, Hikaru Shida, she's, to me, the number one female talent in AEW. She is awesome. And after all of this time, and it's nothing against Nyla Rose, but after all of this time, for all of these weeks, they go with Nyla Rose after all. Nyla Rose called her out, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago? Now we're only getting it. So that just goes to show you. And yes, there's some women that obviously are not wrestling right now for AEW, but you add 2, 3 women and you see how dramatically different that roster looks. But at the same time, though, you see some of the up-and-comers, will they get any opportunity? So, nothing against Serena Deeb's opponent tonight, which was, I wrote it down, Serena Deeb's opponent tonight was, hold on, Leyla Hirsch. She's been on Dark. She wrestled at Dark yesterday, I think. Her record's like 0-1, 0-2. You mean to tell me, less than 2 weeks before your next pay-per-view, you mean to tell me that the best opponent you could put on Dynamite for Serena Deeb is Leyla Hirsch? Nothing against Leyla Hirsch, but nobody knows her yet. And it's not like she just came from Impact or WWE or somewhere else and getting, a little bit of TV exposure. It was just like, it felt so dark, like AEW dark. It's like, I don't think that your entire women's division, and that's the best you could come up with tonight. So, I don't know. Again, obviously they had to scramble because of what happened with Abaddon. But even with that, Abaddon, that match, they have her in the rankings, which I'm fine. I like Abaddon. I've been saying it how many times. She should be on Dynamite a lot more often. She's ranked number 3. And I'm saying to myself, just it's storyline, obviously, but I'm saying to myself, all the matches for the most part are on Dark. How do you get ranked in the top 5 when you can't even get TV time? So it just goes to show you AEW's women's roster does have some issues. But you can't follow Britt Baker's suggestion hey, if you like the women's division so much you want to support us, don't change the channel. That's so Dixie Carter-ish to do that. So I know the ranking, that's why I don't bring up the rankings, Benjamin. The rankings are what they are. And because they try to showcase the rankings and try to make it really relevant, they put themselves in a bad situation because they have someone who's starting to get a little momentum, and then they look at the record and they're like, fuck, he's 2-19 or 2-11. How do we give this person momentum? So now they have to start winning matches, but who do they face? You're not going to sacrifice Ricky Starks or Darby Allin or someone on the up and up. You know, so what did he do? They put him on dark against Joe Smith. Oh my God, next week he's taking on not Lee Johnson, because Lee Johnson is not that bad. I don't know, Lee Gomez. Oh my God, in 2 weeks. Oh my God, you're not going to believe it. Blah, blah, blah is going to take on Tom Dick. Dick Tom. Bob and Dick. So, anyway. What do you want to talk about first? Takeover? Halloween Havoc or AEW? I'll let, majority rules. Flash vote in the chat. Majority rules. Which one you want me to cover first? Yeah, oh my God. But Pineapple Pete's getting momentum, but he's 1-11. So we'll put him, next 3 weeks he's going to take on Mike Judge, Handjob, and some dumb fuck. All right, we got some AEWs, some NXTs. It's up to me. My nose makeup is starting to wear off. I don't know, how could it be wearing off? I'm just like scratching my nostrils. I haven't touched over here. Might be the lighting. Yeah, let's talk about WCW. All right, so you know what? Let's just run through AEW really quick. Because honestly, tonight, AEW, it obviously was pre-recorded. It ends up, the spoilers that were out there were in fact true. So we all knew that looked at the spoilers. We already knew what the outcomes were tonight. We were just wondering how many backstage segments that were not originally aired on AEW that we were going to get tonight. And one of them was Miro, Kip Sabian, Penelope Ford dressed up as Orange Cassidy. They give a gift. And by the way, that segment was horrendous. I don't know if it was Chuck Taylor, but I go back and watch it. When Kip Sabian dumped the slop in his face, I swear to God, I know I nitpick sometimes. When he threw the bucket of whatever it was in his face, you actually see, I think it was Chuck Taylor that did it, right? You actually see him looking at him like for a split second, like, okay, I'm waiting for your cheap shot. And I'm sorry, man, especially since that's pre-recorded, edit an eighth of a second out. I see his eyes stop and he's like, okay, I'm waiting. Go watch back and you'll see what I'm talking about. You see him, he's like, okay, I'm waiting for your cheap shot. It was Rip Taylor. Yeah, Rip Taylor. Where's Brody Lee? He's probably in his hotel room right now. Or he's in Schenectady, with family. I know. I do that every week. I've been doing that for 20 some odd years on the shows. For the new people out there, when it gets late, especially at night when I used to do the hotlines or I started doing podcasting, somebody would be like, where is Steve Blackman? And it's 1:30 in the morning. And I know what they meant, like, how come he hasn't been on TV? And I'll say something like, yeah, he's in a hotel. It's 1:30 in the morning. He's probably sleeping. He's got to get up in the morning. But I know. Brody, I care about Brody Lee, Mystery Man. I like Brody Lee. I actually think that he's done a pretty decent job under the circumstances. Everybody remembers, the Wyatt stuff and everything. I have no problem with Brody Lee. I like his character. I wasn't too thrilled with all of the Vince McMahon things, and they admitted to some of them. But I like Brody Lee. I have no problem with him. This is what's wonderful about wrestling. There are going to be people, and I'll give you a great example. Oh, wonderful example. Miro. Okay, Miro. Think I'm lying? Do some searches on social media, see what's transpired in the last 24 hours. They're very sick individuals on social media. And I say that more joking. Like, again, I don't think they realize that they haven't deleted their tweets. But remember when Miro signed with AEW? You had countless goofs online talking about how, another WWE ripoff and look at this and that, and they're making fun of Rusev and Miro. They say, look what he's doing now, playing video games. He's a joke. He's this and that. And what a lot of you said, along with me, is the guy's not supposed to get a job anymore. The guy looks like he's happy. It's part-time. You know, there was wrestlers back in the day that would leave WWE and go to TNA because they wanted a little break of their full-time schedule. Make a little bit of bucks, have some fun, get a little bit of drive back, maybe a little bit more creativity. But remember all those people, like, just making fun of Miro nonstop because he signed with AEW. Here's my point. Those people obviously don't like Miro. Some of you out there, like me, do. So when he signed with AEW, we looked at it like the guy has a right to work wherever he wants, right? He's working in AEW. He's having a good time. He's happy. That's what should matter. Okay. Here's my point with this. So all of those people that don't like Miro all made fun of him. But a lot of those same people love Thunder Rosa. So now they all tweet fuck today about Thunder Rosa maybe going to WWE. And then when they're challenged on it, you see all these people saying Thunder Rosa should be able to work wherever she wants. And if she wants to go there or she wants to go to AEW or she wants to remain, that should be her prerogative. I'm like, wait, whoa. Take Thunder Rosa's name out and put Miro's name in there. And you see what I'm talking about. We all like different people, and you have every right to enjoy whoever you want to enjoy. But when it's someone you don't like and you joke about them or insult them for going here or going to AEW, go wherever else, but now someone you do like is going to WWE, and now it's okay. It's twisted, man. Was that twisted iced tea? There's a lot of twisted iced tea being drank today. But you know, Miro next week, you know, he's going to have a match. The segment tonight sucked, in my opinion. So I could say that, and I'm happy for the guy, but I could also say it sucked. So today we knew that the spoilers, and the spoilers were pretty detailed, so we pretty much already knew what was going to go on. The tournament to determine who the two finalists were going to be for the World Title Eliminator tournament. The first day that they announced the tournament, myself and a boatload of you out there all said in the chat that night, it's going to come down to Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. It was so predictable. I mean, the minute you, and again, it's nothing against Joey Janela or Colt Cabana, but when you first saw those 8 names announced, and you see Colt Cabana on this side, Joey Janela on this side. Oh, look at that. Hangman Page is on this side. Oh, look at that. Kenny Omega's on this side. We all knew it was going to come down to Omega and Page. And you know what? We were happy with that because a lot of us would like to see Kenny Omega and Hangman Page tear it up. So the tournament was predictable. It was predictable, and exactly what went down happened. You had Wardlow losing to Hangman Page today. In my opinion, this might have been Hangman Page's best match so far since COVID started. Wardlow got to show tonight that he really could go, and a lot of you already know it. I have been saying it for a while now as well. They teased early on with him and MJF, basically saying that, you know, if Wardlow ends up, you know, getting the shot and becoming champion, and MJF really is a champion because he works for him and this and that, and Wardlow's like rolling his eyes like, yeah, whatever, boss, whatever. But Wardlow ends up losing. Hangman Page goes to the finals. Another Moxley promo airing and, you know, building the match with him and Eddie Kingston. I'm ecstatic that Eddie Kingston is getting this opportunity because a lot of people, I think, still don't even realize what this match is going to look like next weekend. It's an I Quit match, and a lot of you remember Moxley versus Omega. It's not going to be to that level, but it's going to be an absolute brawl. And I think people out there are absolutely going to love it. Shout out to Austin Nash. Thank you very much, my friend. He loves the artwork, loves the setup. I like the green because I actually told Shaheen that I was going to be doing Wario this week, so well, I told him last week once he started like making sure, even with the NXT stuff later on, we have a different template when we do I keep saying takeover because it felt like a takeover a little bit, but Halloween Havoc, like my eyebrows. Those are the only things that are not bothering me, right? I keep getting these little pieces of hair inside my nose. It's annoying. So we then have Eddie Kingston beating Matt Sydal. Matt Sydal, the former Evan Bourne. We still remember that Battle Royal when he made his AEW debut and, almost had a disaster. Thank God he was okay. But Matt Sydal has yet to really do anything in AEW. He had a great match with Eddie Kingston today, and Matt Sydal, they let him go. And we already know what Evan Bourne could do. Problem is, I don't see where Matt Sydal breaks out. I mean, does he feud with Ricky Starks next? I kind of feel that might be coming. But Eddie Kingston wins, a match fairly quickly against Matt Sydal, hit the kitchen sink, and then used Jon Moxley's Bulldog choke to tap out Sydal. Almost guarantee we're going to see that Bulldog choke be a factor in their match at Full Gear. Let's see. Why don't I dress as the Boogeyman? That's a little bit too detailed, to be honest with you. I mean, when this show's over later, this is like a one-piece outfit, This one, it's funny because this one's a size large and it feels so much bigger than the Mario one. Maybe because they give you this thing to blow up and use as a stomach. But when the show's over, remember the scene in The Naked Gun where Leslie Nielsen pulls off that suit? He just unzips it and the whole thing comes off. That's what's going to happen to me later. Just you won't all see it. I'm literally going to just stand up and just go like this, and it's just going to fall to the sides. I'm going to whip the blood, and I'm diving into the shower and washing my face and this stuff. So, we now have tonight that interview with the Young Bucks and FTR, which I already talked about. Asking Matt Jackson about his injury. It was a severe sprain. People are still confused as far as the Young Bucks. Are they baby faces? Are they heels? Now it feels like that they're more baby faces, even though all the stuff they've been doing leading up to this. I don't need to repeat it again, but you already know my feelings. They added the stipulation that at Full Gear, if they lose their match, they will never be able to fight for the tag titles again. Now, what I say to you about this that I didn't say before, remember specific words. WWE has done this many times over the years. And every time they do it, I say the same thing, and it happens every single time. Take note that the Young Bucks tonight did not say if they don't win the tag titles. They said, if we don't win, we will never fight for the titles again. So they could win by DQ or count out, and they could still fight for the titles again. So those little words, Tony Khan may think that we don't notice it. The Donzilla Army don't notice it, but a lot of you out there notice it as well. When they say, if we don't win those titles, we'll never take. All they said was, if we don't win at Full Gear. Remember that. Remember that next Sunday. Inner Circle Town Hall. Dasha Gonzalez, Tony Schiavone are the moderators. We had an appearance once again by Eric Bischoff. Basically, this time around, you had various people asking questions to Jericho and to MJF. And basically, the discussion is if MJF should be part of the Inner Circle. And I took some notes because I wanted to mention the specific questions. Luchasaurus was first to ask a question. He asked MJF how he would keep his earnings potential strong by being in the Inner Circle. MJF making fun of how a dinosaur or whatever Luchasaurus is talks so eloquently. I tell you, I'm curious, chat. live chat. And anyone on the archive, by all means, post your comments as well. A lot of us think Luchasaurus will be a future heavyweight champion. Luchasaurus is excellent at what he does. My question to all of you is, do you think Luchasaurus should be cutting promos this intelligently? I'm just curious. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. And I'm not saying also he should go out there and go, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, do you like him being intelligent like that? I'm very curious of how everybody feels about that. You know, and again, I'm not criticizing it and I'm not praising it. I'm just curious how you all feel. You know, see Lars. I know this is not a Raw SmackDown show. You see Lars. Everybody knows. You know, I'm rooting for the guy. That'd be the right way to put it. But when he comes out there and actually gets time to talk, and you realize how intelligent and methodical he comes across, it shocks people because his whole character is like he's a freak. But then he'll just, you know, totally berate you with intelligence in his promos. But as far as Luchasaurus, do you want to see him talk so beautifully eloquent, intelligent, or do you want him to be more of a character? And I'm not saying like in WWE template. All right, most people are saying, you know, no. You said Kevon says that a smart dinosaur is rare. Dinosaurs are rare just in general, but dinosaurs were very smart. I mean, obviously they got themselves extinct. So, you know, back in the day can you imagine when the last dinosaur, because we had some fun on Patreon last week, Mish and I, but can you remember could you imagine back in the day when the last dinosaur was on this earth and whoever, you know, was about to like kill them and eat them a la Fred Flintstone style? I mean, can you just imagine where all the carcasses are all laid out and you got all the prehistoric people going, you fucked up. But I think dinosaurs were very intelligent back in the day. But, all right, so most people are fine with Luchasaurus like that. That's cool. I'm just very curious how you all felt about it. So, you know, MJF is basically, you know, they're questioning MJF as far as his dedication, you know, what he would be in the Inner Circle. They, you know, if you did not notice it, Jake Hager was not there. Jake Hager was involved with Bellator 250, I believe it was. So that explained why Jake Hager wasn't there. No controversy. We had Rhea and Britt Baker, you know, asked the next question. Rhea acting like she's got a crush. I can't say man crush. A crush on Chris Jericho. Britt Baker asked Chris Jericho about MJF's poor track record when it comes to friendships. And basically, Chris Jericho says that he's not a dipshit like Cody. And he won't let MJF in his true inner circle. And he said that if MJF ever turned on him, he would knock his teeth out. Now, when we get to the match that was announced tonight for Full Gear, you know, we might see something that you and I have talked about very, very recently. We'll get to that. MJF says they're in the business for money, championships, gold, and that if he joined the Inner Circle, there'd be a lot of green and a lot of gold. Eric Bischoff is there, and Eric Bischoff, copying, I think, JFK from 1963, ask not what your country could do for you, ask what you could do for your country. He does a spin on that, basically asking MJF, ask not what you could do for the Inner Circle, but what could the Inner Circle do for you? And MJF is sort of dodging the question. Bischoff says that Jericho, he worked for Bischoff, and Jericho's a prima donna. And, you know, basically what ends up happening is Chris Jericho offers a match with MJF at Full Gear. It'll be Chris Jericho versus MJF at Full Gear. If MJF wins, then he is part of the Inner Circle. So that is the match that's going to go down. There was a lot of smack being told by Ortiz, talking a lot of smack to MJF, and they announced that next week on Dynamite, we're going to have Ortiz teaming up with Sammy Guevara versus Wardlow and MJF. Now, I should also add that at the very beginning of Dynamite tonight, there was a back-and-forth exchange with Sammy Guevara and MJF. And basically, MJF's making fun of Guevara. And in my opinion, Guevara came off a little bit, I think, in the fans online as a babyface here. Next week, it's going to be very interesting. And I honestly think that you might actually see Guevara and Ortiz get cheered by the fans next week. But remember when I said not too long ago that either Jericho is going to be kicked out of the Inner Circle and they may reform a variation of it, almost like maybe a Latino version? Not saying that that's going to happen in that aspect, but we also talked about that sooner or later Sammy Guevara may get the Randy Orton treatment a la Evolution. When Randy Orton won the title and they gave him the thumbs up and thumbs down, I'm not saying that Guevara is going to win a belt before that happens, but I think one thing we can all agree on, something is going to change on the Inner Circle in the next 2 weeks or so. There's going to be a shift. This storyline is going to be a shift. Some people think that MJF may end up leading the Inner Circle. I don't know if MJF even needs a faction. You know what I mean? So it could end up being that the entire Inner Circle just turns on MJF. I don't think we want MJF as a babyface right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes down. But there is definitely, in my opinion, there's definitely going to be a big shift in the Inner Circle storyline a week from Sunday. Or maybe the following Dynamite. Something is happening soon. What happens with Wardlow? Wardlow is going to break away from MJF. I am convinced of that. I'm a little concerned because if he breaks away from MJF, what do you do with him? You saw they tried to make Will Hobbs, like a main roster star, and it didn't work out as well as they thought. And, look, Will Hobbs has got plenty of time to get more seasoning and develop more, and that guy will be a star. Wardlow should already be a star. I don't see the Diesel breaking out. You know what I mean? Like when Diesel left HBK, like Diesel broke out. I'm not saying break out and be heavyweight champion, but I'm a little concerned that Wardlow may end up facing people like Lance Archer and end up losing. He might face people like Brody Lee and end up losing. He might go on AEW Dark and win a couple of matches here and there, but I'm a little concerned. And thank you, Beaver Cleavage. Great minds think alike. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, when all of us block out the noise and the drama online and you focus on the entertainment at hand, things become a lot clearer. And I think that's why a lot of you in the chat and I are almost mimicking each other. A lot of us are on the same page. So Ken is asking me, why is James Avalon? You're talking to Pete. I think you're talking about Peter Avalon. Peter Avalon, I just don't like him. I mean, I know the whole storyline, on Dark and everything. I know he's going to be part of that tournament from that company that I brought up about a week or two ago. I just don't see anything in Peter Avalon. I mean, every time I see that banner where he's like, I want to stick that finger up his ass. I seriously, if I could be invisible, because people say like if you had supervise, I would be invisible, and if I could, I would go to Florida, and when he's not looking, when they pose, I mean, you wouldn't be able to see me obviously, but he'd be in front of the camera, and they're gonna like take pictures for the next graphic when he's on AEW Dark, and he's gonna be like this, and then all of a sudden, you're not even gonna see anything because it's invisible. You're just gonna see like. And then he's going to pick the finger back up, and it's going to be brown on the tip. Stick that finger More like this. Seriously, I want to stick that finger up his ass. He must do a lot of good work backstage. And I'm not even saying that in any perverted way. I think he must actually do a lot for AEW behind the scenes. He must be good in like the office, public relations, maybe travel. He does something great because he looks like an anorexic, ravishing Rick Rude. He looks like someone who caught COVID, and instead of attacking his lungs, attacked his stomach, his digestive system. And he lost like 90 pounds. He looks like an anorexic, ravishing Rick Rude. When he wears that robe, you know what it looks like to me? It looks like Pro Wrestling Tees or a wrestling store out there, accidentally like made the wrong size of a robe. Instead of it being like an XL for a wrestler, it was like XS. And, he's like, I'll take it. Tell me how that robe matches him. I never met a librarian in my life that wears like a ravishing Rick Rude. You want to take out that book? I mean, he doesn't even look like a librarian. He looks like an anorexic, ravishing Rick Rude wannabe. The robe doesn't match him. Now, if we found out, like, when he was a kid, like, Ravishing Rick Rude was his idol, and maybe he was diagnosed with an illness that made him go as small as, like, 40 pounds, and Rick Rude gave him, like, his early jacket when he was in high school or something, then I'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool, or maybe he does it in tribute. I'm telling you, his gimmick doesn't match the outfit. It looks like somebody made the wrong size. And he's like, I don't know what to... You see this? The Deli Man thing? I got a mask made up that says DM for Deli Man. The colors are the Italian colors. Because if I'm going to do a funny gimmick called Deli Man and take a shot and I wear the apron with the sausage or the salami, everything's got to match. This guy comes up with this, I'm going to be a librarian. We haven't had a good librarian wrestler so what do librarians wear? Peter, they actually wear like sweaters. They wear like Charlie Brown sweaters, or they wear like button-down shirts and maybe like a smoking jacket or something like that. No. Look at Rick Rude, the perfect librarian. So why is he misused? I think I gave you a couple of reasons. It's nothing personal against the guy. I don't wish him ill will. But I see that, and I'm like, you know what it reminds me of? How many of you out there remember this? And I brought up this example before in other ways. You go to a diner. You go with maybe like your son, your daughter, maybe your son, or your little brother or your little nephew. They're like 5 years old, and, you take a 5-year-old to a diner, and they'll just start yelling and screaming, Mommy, I don't want to be here. Mommy, kind of looks like the 5-year-old version of Mia Yim in the ring on Monday. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And just like being loud and everything. And the waiter or the waitress comes over and like, look, crayons. And they give you a box of crayons. And it's not like a nice box of Crayolas where they have like all these different colors, like Sasha Banks blue and stuff like that. No, it's like 6 colors. 6 generic colors. And they give you like a menu. It's like a paper menu. And you look at the menu and it's like, tic-tac-toe or draw this. Or they'll show you a tree and they'll say, what doesn't belong in the tree? And they'll show you a monkey, a bird, a cat, a lion. The lion shouldn't be in the tree. That's what it looks like with Peter Avalon. It's like they gave the wrestling version to the little kid and say, what doesn't belong in the ring right now? And you see, like a Hogan with his attire, and then you see Peter Avalon wearing the Ravishing Rick Rude thing going, this. That's what it looks like. Rose art, is that what it is? Don't ask me how I even remember like the diner stuff. I will tell you that when I was a kid, I was definitely given boxes of crayons once in a while and pads because I just wasn't having it. So, yeah, the lion would never be in the tree. I mean, maybe the lion could go in the tree. I don't know. I wouldn't the tree branch break? But so that's how I feel about Peter Avalon. So, but anyway, so. We have next week that match We have Jericho and MJF at Full Gear. Team Taz, we still haven't gotten the answer, Will Hobbs. After all these fucking weeks, they're still doing that. It's not Taz's fault. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of some goof that like starts like tweeting someone online, you know, whether it's a male, female, male, female, whatever it is. And, you know, like they start having a conversation and then one side starts to realize that this person's a freak. I don't want to have anything to do with him. And, you know, the person's like, hey, you know, you want to maybe have some coffee next week? Let's pretend COVID doesn't exist. All right, you know, I'll get back to you. Then a week goes by. I was just following up. I was just curious, you know, if you want to maybe go do some coffee or something. You know, I'll get back to you. And then 4 weeks go by, and you haven't gotten any response. When do you realize that, you know, I don't think this person actually wants to do anything with me? I don't think maybe this person doesn't like coffee. Maybe it's tea. Or you do, oh, hi, listen, I had my phone turned off accidentally before. And I wasn't sure if you called, and I would have felt terrible if you called and I didn't answer, and then maybe you thought that I was trying to avoid you. So I was just contacting you just to let you know I accidentally turned my phone off in case you want to talk to me. Yeah, oh, thank you, but, you know, I'll get back to you. And 5 weeks later, they start, I mean, Tony Khan, please. You know, this storyline sucks. You know, if Will Hobbs hasn't joined, you know, Darby Allin, you missed the boat with Taz calling Darby Allin Darby dumbass. You know, let this storyline die. Nobody gives a shit about it. Seriously. You know, you got to take storylines and try to compare it to real life stuff. You know, after a while, when Ali is no longer hacking anything on TV, nobody gives a shit anymore. That's why after 25 weeks, oh, by the way, everybody, I was the hacker. Nobody gave a shit. So anyway, Orange Cassidy loses a Lumberjack match against Cody. It was a fun match, but I think we will all agree that it was just filler. Not just for this week, but filler for next week. Nice back and forth match. Don't know why, well, we know why the Lumberjacks were there. I mean, there was nobody interfering with Cody and Orange Cassidy last week or the week before, even though they didn't have a match. So why would you insist on having tons of Lumberjacks? Oh, I got it. Because next week we have to fill an extra week before Full Gear. So we'll have the Dark Order show up because of history with Cody. And this time we'll have the Guns. The Guns. They'll chase the Dark Order out. So next week it's the Gun Club and Cody versus 10, 3, and 9. Who cares? It's just filler. Orange Cassidy versus Cody was fun this week. You announced Darby Allin as Cody's opponent before this match? I mean, you could have at least done something that, hey, if Orange Cassidy wins, he'll get added to the match. No, we got to make it for the TNT title. So that ruins all possibility of Orange Cassidy winning. Because there's no way Orange Cassidy would have won the title, and then suddenly it's Orange Cassidy versus Darby Allin on the pay-per-view, because Cody obviously has to be part of it. So instead of making this match tonight, that if Orange Cassidy wins, he's added to the pay-per-view as a three-way. And then everybody for the last 7 days would be like, you know, that'd actually be pretty cool. Orange Cassidy versus Darby Allin versus Cody. Oh my God, maybe Cody doesn't even have to get pinned and he could lose the belt. And you put all this speculation and all this conversation online, all this, no. We'll do it for a title, and everybody will realize the title ain't changing hands. Come on. Is it that freaking hard? Something as simple as that. A little change in the stipulation. All week you would have people saying, like, you know, maybe it would be cool to have Orange Cassidy added to a three-way. Yeah! Morons. Oh, look, next week we got the Gun Club teaming up with Cody. Sorry for people audio only. Let me do this again. Oh, look, everybody, it's the Gun Club teaming up with Cody next week. Fuck cares about that? That's called filling 2 weeks. Buying 2 weeks worth of time for this pay-per-view. So once again, Kip and Miro, they sabotage best friends. Chuck Taylor, your timing sucks sometimes. The fight with Santana Ortiz was awesome, by the way. Serena Deeb, she beats Leyla Hirsch. No relation to Judd, by the way, I don't think. She used a single leg crab. And then Hikaru Shida cuts a promo. And this is why I kind of disagreed with having Serena Deeb added to Dynamite this week. Nothing against Serena Deeb, nothing against the NWA title. I like that it's used on Dynamite. But next weekend, Hikaru Shida's got to defend her title. So you have Serena Deeb just cut a promo and say, think about this, everyone. This is the only title that matters. Well, she didn't say it like that. She said this belt represents legacy, tradition, respect. Where was Hikaru Shida during this? Taking a leak? Like, you have your rival company. She beat Thunder Rosa. And you got Serena Deeb cutting a promo saying this title represents legacy, respect. And if I was Hikaru Shida, I would have said, okay, I'll challenge you next week. I'm talking storyline here. But no, Hikaru Shida just acts like Serena Deeb wasn't even there because it was spliced in. And Hikaru Shida, I want Nyla Rose. Nothing against Serena Deeb, Hikaru Shida, or Nyla Rose. But that's what happens, AEW, when you splice a match in, not thinking that your own women's heavyweight champion doesn't have an opponent next week. And how goofy is it going to look that you have an outside company's champion who works for you saying this belt represents respect, legacy, and then your women's champion 5 minutes later, I want that. That's like going into a restaurant and everybody tells you before you go, don't buy the chicken. Chicken on Mondays, that's the chicken that was bought last Monday. And they put it on special because they know they got to throw it out. Whatever you do, never buy the chicken on Mondays. And that's true. You go on Google. The people give you that advice. You're going to go out to you're going to go on a date. You're going to go on a date. You're going to go to this restaurant. And your friends all tell you, whatever you do, don't buy the chicken. Chicken on Mondays is last week's chicken. And then you walk into the place and the waiter is telling you, we got Bronzino. We got this beautiful ossobuco. We got veal filet mignon. You could have it sauteed, pan-fried, or oreganada, whatever. We got this beautiful salmon this week. A little bit of roasted potatoes, broccoli. You get a little bit of blah, blah, blah sauce on the side. We also have a pasta. We have a fettuccine, pasta goulash with garlic and oil, a little bit of homemade. And after that person says all these things, you say, give me the Nyla chicken. Idiots. So stupid. Thank you, Gabriella. I try to be a little bit humorous. I am a big AEW fan, but little things like that, it stands out. It stands out. You tweak little things here and there. No need for the Young Bucks. If we lose the match, we'll never fight for the titles again. Why would you strap them down like that? Why would you take away that for the future? You tease Orange Cassidy that if he wins against Cody, that he can be part of the three-way. He doesn't have to win tonight. But instead, no, we'll make it a title match where you know Cody ain't losing the belt. And then, like I just said, you have Serena Deeb showing a lot of love for NWA's lineage, which is understandable. And then 5 minutes later, your own company's women's champion, like, totally brushes it off. I want that. I want the chicken, you know? And that's AEW's fault for splicing that in where they did. And they don't even realize that because there's nobody in the back. You know, Peter Avalon wants to up his role over there. Maybe, you know, when they pitch this idea, the next time Tony Khan is like, hey, I have this idea. We'll have Serena Deeb cut a promo about the lineage of NWA's title, and then we'll have Hikaru Shida come out and challenge her. And Peter Avalon should go, shh, that doesn't make sense. I'm having fun tonight. It's kind of like numbing the itchiness a little bit, by the way. Shawn Spears beats VSK. I don't know what VSK stands for. Sure, he's good somewhere, but he won in about 5 seconds. And Shawn Spears is bad luck. He grabs somebody in the crowd who's wearing like a Mantar, bull mask, and happens to be Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky beats the balls off of him. So next week, we got Shawn Spears versus Scorpio Sky. SS versus SS. Battle of the double S's. We got Trent versus Miro. Seriously, they should, you know what? They should have a match where hang like a joystick on the pole. And I'm not kidding. Bash somebody over the head with a joystick and tell me if that feels good. The one with the ball, like the Pac-Man one, they should do something like that. They should have video game props and use them as weapons. You have Cody in the Gun Club versus Colt Cabana, Silver, Jonathan Silver? No, that's Alex Reynolds, Dick Jonathan Silver. Is it Jonathan Silver? I'm drawing a blank. Brain fart. And 10. Moxley and Eddie Kingston will have a face-to-face next week, which means we'll go off the air with Dynamite with them brawling, which will lead into Sunday. And Chris Jericho will be on commentary next week. Douglas Cape says that Joe Cronin says that I'm a pathetic coof and making a fool of the industry, old and washed up Don Tony. If he says that, he has a right to his opinion. I still think that Joe Cronin is pretty damn good. I like his show. So if you're attempting trolling, didn't work, but I like Joe Cronin. And I actually praise his show often here. And everyone in the chat will vouch for me on this. There is nobody doing a podcast on YouTube that I dislike right now. There's a couple of people that like to talk some shit behind my back, and I know about it, but it's not a big deal. It's water off a duck's back, and that's why I tell everybody all the time, just having fun, enjoying yourself, and if you get a little success out of it, that's the ultimate revenge you could give haters. But something tells me that Douglas just might be messing up. And you know what, Douglas? I enjoy a good troll. If you could troll me good, I give you credit for it. But if that's how he feels, hey, that's how he feels. Nothing I can do about it. So now we get Kenny Omega with his intro with the two women and the brooms. Mike He just had sex with men on a mission. That'd be interesting. Did you get them from the cemetery? From NXT cemetery? Wow, we've been going a while. Holy shit, we've been going a while. But the good thing is we talked a lot about NXT already, so we could just fill in, the blanks. I'm not trying to rush, but obviously we don't want to go 3 hours today. But Kenny Omega continuing the tease of the return of the cleaner. Anybody that is longtime fans of Kenny Omega, enjoy this. Enjoy it. Because I understand why a lot of people have been a little bit disappointed with the use of Kenny Omega in AEW over the last year and a half. Although he had a very long run with Hangman Page as a tag team champion, he had some pretty high-profile feuds, but anybody that followed his work in New Japan, you understand. Even with all the success that Kenny Omega's had in AEW, it is still a far cry of what he did in Japan. You have to understand, though, is that you look at who Kenny Omega feuded with in Japan, and you understand that you don't have many of those wrestlers wrestling in AEW. So when the cleaner would tear it up with whoever you want to fill in the blank with, Okada or anything else, you look at AEW's roster, and especially if you look at the storylines going, give me 5 people that Kenny, and don't just pick 5 AEW people, because yes, I could come up with 5 AEW names that he would have unbelievable matches with also. The problem is a lot of those wrestlers have their own storylines going on right now. So if this is building to Moxley versus Omega, we saw what happened with them two last time. So the cleaner coming in, that character and the transformation, and it's going to be obviously a hybrid of what he did in Japan, But as excited you are, that you also got to think in the back of your mind, okay, who is he going to have feuds with in 2021? You know, I want to see what happens with him and Hangman Page. I want to see what happens building up with him versus Mox. Other than that, do you think he's going to have any type of big feud with Cody? Are you going to see him have any type of big feud with... You don't know. You don't know. So the match tonight with Penta was very good. And him, you know, putting the AAA belt out there to, you know, throw it in Penta's face. But to me, I think people will agree that the main event tonight was a little bit less than what we thought it would be. But it was enough to set up the finals. And in the end, Kenny Omega, you know, defeats Penta. And we go off the air with the announcement that it'll be Kenny Omega and Hangman Page for a shot at the AEW World Championship. You know, the match was very good, but honestly, I wish it would have gone another 5 or 10 minutes. You also got to remember, too, this was recorded, I think, Thursday. I think it was recorded Thursday. So if it was recorded Thursday or Friday, I think it was Thursday, that was only a day after Penta and Rey Fenix went at it. I don't think that was pre-recorded. It could very well have been also. But I do know that there was a very short amount of time between Penta's match with Rey Fenix and his match with Kenny Omega. So Penta's a machine, obviously. The guy's an animal. But that's probably why it was dialed back a little bit. And by the way, there was somebody who was really, really trying to get me to comment about Hannibal's video exposing that Dave Meltzer is on AEW's payroll. Yeah, Sam says last week's show was live. Yeah, so within a day or two, Omega is fighting Penta. So Penta had those 2 matches within 24 hours or so. So, you know, I'm sure the guy was a little bit tired as well. That's why the match tonight started off a little bit more methodical, you know, psychological. But it picked up, obviously. But as far as that video of Hannibal, I think it was, revealing or trying to expose that Dave Meltzer is being paid by AEW, I say this with the utmost sincerity. So what? So what? So what? Tell me what's wrong with that. If you don't like Dave Meltzer, if you feel he's extremely biased, nobody's forcing anybody to read his stuff. I happen to be one of the few that enjoy him. I'm subscribed to his newsletter, and I am a follower of Vince Russo. So, again, so what? That's how I look at it. So, we have, for Full Gear right now, you have John Silver versus Orange Cassidy as the buy-in match. Then on the main card, you have Cody versus Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. You have FTR with Tully Blanchard versus the Young Bucks, and now it's for the, well, it was for the AEW tag titles, but now the stipulation, if the Young Bucks lose, they'll never fight for the titles again. But remember what I said earlier. They said lose, not lose the titles. You know, like if they lose the match, you know, so it could be DQ'd, it could be a count out, it could be, you know, something else. They could even do some type of clusterfuck, you know. So if they, not a big deal. Moxley versus Eddie Kingston, an I Quit match for the AEW World Championship. Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara in an elite deletion match. Please, none of this. If I lose, I'm no longer part of AEW. Please, enough. Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose for the women's title. You have Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega. Winner will receive a future AEW Heavyweight Championship title match. You have Jericho versus MJF. If MJF wins the match, he's in the Inner Circle. They did not make a stipulation if MJF loses. I think that's needed next week. Okay, all right, great stipulation. All right, I challenge you. If you win, you're in. I don't like the simple, well, if you lose, you're out. You're not in. Up the ante a little bit. I'd like to see next week on Dynamite, Jericho tries to up the ante for MJF. Make it a little more revealing, interesting. Like, what's in it for Jericho? If Jericho likes MJF so much in storyline, why would Jericho be so willing to put MJF in a situation he can never join his group? If you actually think about that, that doesn't make too much sense. So Jericho needs to sweeten the pot a little bit. Like, what's in it for Jericho if MJF loses? I don't think anybody thought about that today. So that was your episode of Dynamite. SRH John 07, looking too deep into this. Is he looking too deep into this? But with Escobar and others with the half face paint. Oh, no, it wasn't a Thunder Rosa. I thought that too. Escobar's face paint tonight kind of looked a little bit like Thunder Rosa. And I understand maybe some people thought, hey, maybe that was a shout out to Thunder Rosa or something like that. There are a couple of websites. I don't remember the name of the luchador, but it might have not even been a luchador. It might have been just like a character, but he definitely was paying tribute to someone today. As was Raquel Gonzalez. I don't remember the name of the person, but sorry about that. I'm just trying to close some boxes here to streamline a little bit so we can, speed this up a little bit. So we get Halloween Havoc tonight, first time in 20 years. I think WWE had mentioned it might have been the 13th Halloween Havoc. That sounds awfully small number, but it could very well be the case. But, I thought Halloween Havoc today, obviously it was about the specific matches that were announced. We had Santos Escobar defeat Jake Atlas tonight. It was a non-title match, and we had members of, Escobar's camp basically trying to remember which one it was. One of them put a Lucha mask on and basically, nailed Jake Atlas. So Santos Escobar won the match. There was no title on the line, so maybe it leads to another match. Jake Atlas has been doing great lately, but I don't see him overthrowing Santos Escobar for the title. I liked Shotzi Blackheart as a host. She didn't really need to do much. I thought her outfit was spectacular. The wheel, for people that don't know, the wheel, I don't want to say it was rigged, but you can rent wheels and have it set up where it leads to a particular outcome. If you saw the second time they spun the wheel and they did tables, ladders, and scares, you see how quick that wheel just stopped? They have it set up where they want the wheel to land on a certain match. So, you could actually rent wheels like that. Obviously, if you do that with real gambling, you'll get shot in the head. And, they'll probably spin the wheel and decide how they're going to kill you, But on TV, it is what it is. So Shotzi Blackheart hosting tonight. Opening match, Johnny Gargano taking on Damien Priest for the North American Championship. They spun the wheel. And it landed on, what the hell did it land on? Oh, the Devil's Playground match. And basically what it was falls count anywhere, no DQ, no count out, and it worked just fine. That's really what it was. They brawled in the ring, outside the ring. I was a little sick and tired of seeing kendo sticks after Hell in a Cell, but Halloween Havoc had a awesome setup. The stage, they really went out of their way to make it look fabulous. And they brawled onto the stage. Yeah, no, they don't do that at MGM casinos. No, my God, if they have it, no, you can't. But you can rent ones for carnival purposes. You can't use it for any type of contest or wagering. But if you're doing it as a prop, you can have it rigged like that. I don't know if they use magnets or how they do it, but obviously, because they probably should have considered doing the backstage. They insisted on doing a wheel on the stage. So you had Thunderdome there, and they're seeing it, and this and that, so you really had to use the rigged one. But they could have easily just pre-recorded it, and like they did in the Gargano house. Imagine how many times they had to spin that wheel to have it land on what it did. But, there was some funny moments during the match. We had a casket standing up. And, I just realized that's more like it. That's more like it. That's more like it. They had a casket standing up, and, Gargano hits the casket. It opens up, and a mannequin comes out, and he super kicks the mannequin, which was hilarious, man. Gargano getting creeped out a little bit here and there. They ended up brawling onto the stage, and basically what ends up happening is someone comes out wearing the Scream mask and the whole black cape, whatever it is, and has like a pipe and nails Damian Priest with it. And, you have Vic Joseph and Wade Barrett wondering who it was. And, as I said jokingly earlier, if you look closely, whoever it was had breasts. So you knew it was a female. The only question was, is it Indy Hartwell or was it Candice LeRae? My early thinking is maybe it's Candice LeRae, and then maybe Johnny Gargano returns the favor later on. But it was yes, I agree, Austin. It was a beautiful setup. After Damian Priest was hit with the pipe, I personally didn't like that prop, with the tombstone. I mean, the tombstone looked great, but it just basically blew up into a million pieces. And Damian Priest, like, jumping off the side. I mean, overall, it looked good enough. I mean, the match was phenomenal. The match went on long. I mean, Wardlow and Hangman Page was long gone, and they was still brawling and still going and still going. And you realize tonight that we were going to have a very small number of matches, but the matches that everybody was looking forward to, you were going to get your money's worth. Like I said, I don't like rating matches on a 5-star level. I wouldn't say there were 5 stars tonight, but, I mean, I think Meltzer, because everybody looks at Meltzer's, every single one of the big matches, with the exception of maybe, Grimes versus Lumis, just because it was more cinematic. But I think the other 3 matches really deserve to go 4 stars and above. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Ken, you're right. The Scream creature would have been too tall for it to be Candice LeRae. But when you're on the stage and you see the way it is, I wasn't paying attention to height. All I noticed was, whoever it was had, some bazoomas underneath. So we knew it was a woman. But, you have Gargano, before he actually was handed the tombstone to bash over Priest's head, he actually was a little concerned, thinking that he was going to get hit by, the person under the Scream costume. But he puts a smirk on his face. He wails Priest with the tombstone and gets the win. And I'm very happy for Johnny Gargano, because especially after the takeover, we were all asking, like, what's next for Gargano and LeRae? NXT's done right for both of them since then. And Gargano, especially where he was a couple of months ago to now be a North American champion, pretty good. Starting to wonder if we're going to end up getting Gargano Ciampa down the line. Kind of feels like they may be going that route. That guitar solo, as I said earlier, even I enjoyed it. I thought that was phenomenal. So, after that match, we had Pat McAfee come out and cutting his promo, as I said earlier, giving us a complete recap as far as what happened with his match with Adam Cole and him hiring Ridge Holland, and then Ridge Holland breaking his leg, and I think he said like 750 places or whatever. But, he runs down the whole thing, and then he ends up, he doesn't want to stop with Adam Cole. He wants to take out the whole Undisputed Era. Kyle O'Reilly comes out and basically brings out Pete Dunne with him, and it looks like Pete Dunne is there to help Kyle O'Reilly beat down Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, just to have Pete Dunne turn on Kyle O'Reilly. So now we have Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch all under Pat McAfee's reign. which definitely helps. Definitely helps. I like it. I'm fine with what they're doing with Pat McAfee. If he's going to be there on a regular basis, I'm all for it. I'm liking it. Cameron Grimes, it's very hard to explain this. They did it in 2 parts. Obviously, this was pre-recorded. People didn't figure out most of this was pre-recorded. When they put to be continued, you look at the camera work, Grimes is in one room and, you have Lumis in the other. Everything was very well produced. That was not live in the beginning. Maybe the last part when they ended up back in the arena, but the first part, they go into a haunted house, and basically Lumis is like a stalker. I mean, first Cameron Grimes is walking by. I mean, it was a little goofy. He walks past this giant tree, and he's like, where are you, Lumis? But meanwhile, you can see clear as day Lumis was in the background. I'm telling you, I've been saying it now for, 4 or 5 months? Dexter Lumis is my favorite NXT wrestler. And I think tonight you got to see why. That guy nails it. He nails it. And it's interesting because a lot of what he does, he did some of this in Impact Wrestling. It's just amazing when you do it the right way, how better it comes across. But early on, it was like a cheesy horror film. They were using a little bit of graphics, cheesy blood graphics, kind of like what you see underneath me, which says hosted by Don Tony, but just in red. And, they're brawling. You see a cemetery. There's some zombie creatures. And I was trying to figure out who the women were. I think they were just all hired, actresses who do great yoga, by the way. But Cameron Grimes scared shit. Early in the night, he's begging William Regal to go with him. He's very, very nervous. Let me just lose and this and that. I don't know where you go with Cameron Grimes. We remember when he lost that match, like the 5-way or whatever it was, and like maybe he needs to stop being all laughter and goofy and everything. And they've continued that. And tonight, in the end, Cameron Grimes gets choked out by Dexter Lumis. But I thought it was very well done. It had a Halloween theme, and because it had a Halloween theme, I had no problem with it. I really thought it was pretty good. I mean, there was a couple of moments on it was kind of cheesy, but, they produced it well enough. For a Halloween special theme, I enjoyed it. From beginning to end, I enjoyed it. It was funny with all the zombies because, you wondered, like, how far they were going to go with that. But I tell you, let's be honest. WWE invested a lot of production for that match. And, although it was cinematic, they did a pretty damn good, detailed job for a Wednesday night, NXT episode that, was probably going to get maybe 750,000 viewers. So that was an awful. You got to look at it like that. This was not a pay-per-view. So I commend WWE for the amount of work they put in that match. I commend everybody who worked tonight because everybody worked their ass off. But I commend WWE for all of the work they put into that match, and I commend Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes for really, they did. I think back to Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton when they did that match in that house that time, the Wyatt house or whatever. I mean, this blew that away, blew it away, And you even had that time when they got into the car and they couldn't even get like daylight correct, like it was daylight or it was dark, and then it was daylight when they got to the arena. Remember that? It's just like, how do you make mistakes like that? I mean, especially when you're talking WWE. So yes, I combined part 1 and 2 together just now. I think that was probably more appropriate because they did the first half early in the night, then they put to be continued, and then later on, the second hour of the show, they finished up the match, but Dexter Lumis victorious. We had, as I said earlier, Santos Escobar beat Jake Atlas in a non-title match. Basically, Oh, okay. I did copy it down. Santos Escobar was paying tribute to Dia de Muertos. Dia de Muertos. That's who he was paying tribute to. But it's a decent match. But to me, I guess it was a little bit filler. I kind of wonder, with everybody else's titles on the line, why they didn't just make this Cruiserweight title match. Santos Escobar won anyway. So, but it was okay. We had a funny segment later on in the night. I don't know who the two people were, but they tried to recreate when they had the Giant and you had, oh my God, the Yeti. It's the Yeti. And Drake Maverick is trying to be Hogan, and he has Killian Dane dressed up as the Shockmaster, but Killian Dane refuses to trip, which he ends up doing anyway. And then you saw like whoever was dressed up as the Giant and the Yeti, they ran away. I know some people online thought it was stupid, but I got a good chuckle out of it. And again, I got to find out if it was Kevin Von Erich in the van with Michael P.S. Hayes. Because if it was, I could be like, hey, I was the only one on the entire social media at that time. Nobody knew. I mean, you go back in real time when that segment happened, not one person, nobody. If it was, that's pretty sad that not one person looked at them and said, hey, that looks like Kevin Von Erich. And I don't know if it was, but to me, I thought it was. So the segment with Drake Maverick and Killian Dane, I think they're going to be future tag champs. I think they're going to have a better run as tag champs in NXT than Breezango did. You thought it was Rosa Mendez in the van? I know why you're saying that. Tommaso Ciampa cuts a promo. The beginning of it was a little confusing because he said he doesn't recognize NXT anymore. He talks about the colors and everything, but he says the attitude, the climate, the culture is different. Then he's, talking about out with the old, in with the new. But basically, he was also talking about how, people want to take something and said, and I remember when he came back, how he was just manhandling people. He was kind of doing what he was complaining about. But then he talks about how everybody wants to blame everyone else for things that they don't have. And that's all on point. I mean, he took shots at social media. He said that, people will go on Twitter and, they'll post a tweet because they know it's going to get them a lot of buzz. But it's true, especially during COVID. You have people blaming everything else as to why they have no job and no money, but they never went and found alternate work. And basically what Tommaso Ciampa is saying is like, people blame brass ring, glass ceiling, and he says that he was never handed anything for a very long time. Tommaso Ciampa was NXT, and it's about damn time he takes it back. And he begins with Velveteen Dream. Kind of feels almost like the Kushida story. Am I wrong? Doesn't it feel like the English-speaking version of Kushida? Nah, it about time. I take me. I get what I deserve. It starts with you, Velveteen Dream. I sound more like a robot than what I'm trying to do. But Tommaso Ciampa was spilling lots of facts. So next week we got Tommaso Ciampa versus Velveteen Dream. And they couldn't even give them their own separate graphics. Did you notice that? Everything is fucking lazy with their graphics department. You see on my my preview tonight, you see those things with this wheel in the background and you see how everything is nice and detailed? I had to take that from video. I had to actually take screenshots from video and put that on there because their NXT Twitter feed is disgusting. I mean, you got spin the wheel, make the deal gimmicks, and no graphic was separated. You couldn't tell. If you didn't pay attention to who's wrestling who, you would have no idea who was spinning the wheel and who wasn't tonight. So next week, we got Ciampa versus Dream and Ember Moon versus Dakota Kai. Main event, Poppy comes out with Io Shirai. That was revealed earlier in the night. And, they piped in a lot of noise, a lot of buzz, a lot of pop, and deservingly so, because I know social media was popping for Poppy. They enjoyed it. She came out with Io Shirai. Great entrance. This, Shotzi Blackheart spun the wheel, and as I said before, tables, ladders, and scares. It was basically, tables and ladders match. And, man, it was brutal. It was physical. I think a lot of you out there at some points were convinced that Candice LeRae was winning that belt, especially when Indy Hartwell came out and was revealed to be under the Scream outfit. But in the end, one point during the match, it looked like Candice LeRae had injured her shoulder. They were very, very creative with the chairs. I mean, there was ladders everywhere. But there was one point where Candice LeRae went through 2 ladders. And it reminded me a lot of that spot that Mia Yim took. And it just looked insane. Io Shirai, if you go back and watch it, Io Shirai was even looking in amazement like, what the fuck did I just do? Yeah, a lot of you are popping for Poppy. But it was phenomenal. The match, and again, I'm not trying to be PC or anything like that, but I especially enjoyed the match simply for the rant that I went on not too long ago when I brought up Candice LeRae's 18-year career. Is she one of the top upper echelon wrestlers in WWE roster? No, probably not. But, when people were just writing her off online like garbage and this and that, just to get a couple of tweet hand jobs, I thought that was a little bit unfair. And, why is she on my TV? It's just, she showed everybody today that she actually can work and work pretty damn good. But, we are at the point now that I don't see Candice LeRae, running with the women's championship. And in the end, Io Shirai got the win. And I'm glad. I'm glad Io Shirai still has that title. We talked about it on Monday. We're a little disappointed that NXT appears is not going to be part of Survivor Series. Who knows? Maybe they changed their mind, or maybe there's going to be a little bit, of a change. But the way they announced so many matches on Monday, it really does not look like NXT is going to have anything to do with Survivor Series. And maybe that's a smart thing, especially when you heard about the news, the rumblings that there was an outbreak in the Performance Center with COVID once again. It's, again, it comes down to individual responsibility. There are too many people out there that are getting too lazy. They'll go to a bar, they'll go to a restaurant, they won't wear a mask. If they don't have to wear a mask, it's almost like you got to be forced. That's why I understand why some places do mandates. Because if you don't force someone to do it, there's always going to be people that are not going to do it out of respect, or they're not going to do it out of caution. There's always going to be people out there that like, nobody's forcing me. I have a right. I don't have to wear it. Nobody's saying I have to. So sometimes you got to force people, to force them to be responsible. Put it this way. That's why you have drinking and driving laws and everything else. You got to force people to be responsible, because if you just want to do it based on the honor system, people would be drinking and driving all the time with no fear that they're going to get in trouble for it. So, individual responsibility is why a lot of people end up, not all, but why a lot of people end up testing positive for COVID. So we go off the air with Io Shirai as your champion. Phenomenal. And I'll be honest with you, I look back at AEW tonight, and I don't know if Kenny Omega versus Penta is as big of a ratings grab as you all may think. Cody versus Orange Cassidy, I know that spoilers were out there, and I know people were aware of it, but, a lot of people are like me. Even if spoilers are out there, if you like a product, you're going to watch it anyway. So I think Cody versus Orange Cassidy is probably going to be the high point of AEW for the whole night. Wardlow versus Hangman Page, with all due respect, I don't think it's popping a great rating. You know, Serena Deeb, with all due respect to her, I don't think she's popping a great rating. I think tonight, NXT with Halloween Havoc has the best chance in a very long time to beat AEW in the ratings. And, you know, if it happens, I mean, obviously we'll say, well, it was a special and it was a theme and that's the reason why, and makes sense. And then next week it'll probably go right back to where it was before. So as far as ratings go, NXT did 644 last week. I think they obviously go up this week. The World Series is over. Congratulations, Dodgers. I picked them back in March. I definitely did not pick them to face Tampa Bay. I thought it'd be Dodgers-Yankees. But no World Series tonight, so we don't have that. No debates tonight, so we don't have that. So I nailed NXT last week on the head, 644. I think this week NXT goes up at least, I'd say 80,000 viewers. I personally think if NXT does 735, I think that would be considered a disappointment for WWE. In fact, I think anything under 800,000 would be considered almost a colossal disappointment for WWE. Problem is that you have moments like Santos Escobar and Jake Atlas that I don't think a lot of people really was interested in. The Grimes Lumis match, I could picture people glued. Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez, I don't think is as big of a ratings grab as people think. We'll see the quarter-hour ratings on Friday. So really what you're left with is the opening match, and even that, Johnny Gargano and Damien Priest, if you follow me every week with the quarter-hour ratings, they don't really pop much ratings. You know, you haven't seen any big spikes on them. So even though it was a Halloween Havoc theme, the only thing that saves Johnny Gargano and Damien Priest is the fact that Hangman Page versus Wardlow, I even think is, you know, maybe a little bit less of an interest by fans out there. Hangman Page, as I've brought up many times before, has not been popping ratings either compared to other quarter hours. So if you ask me, they did 644 last week. I think WWE doesn't go up as much as people expect. I'm going to say 735. And I think that might still be, if it's higher, if it ends up being higher, good for them. But I think NXT, you know, maybe I am getting a little low. You know, maybe I go 755. No World Series, no debates, 755. That's 110,000 viewer jump. That's a 20% jump. That's high. No, I'm going to go, you know, I'll go with 737. 737. I'm going to stick to that. 737. That's a nice spike. 737. AEW, I have been overshooting their ratings. Not by much, but I've been overshooting it a little bit. And I personally think that if NXT wins this week, they're not winning by a lot. So if I say NXT scores 737, I think AEW scores in the low sevens. I think AEW might be like 714. So 737 to 714. That's low because that's 1.4 million. I think the wrestling it's got to be higher than 1.4. I think it's more like 1.4 and a half, 1.5. So you know what? I'll say WWE. I'll increase it a little bit. I'm going to regret it, but I'm going to increase it a little bit. I'm going to say 747. No. You know what? 737, and I'll make NXT AEW a little bit closer. 737 to 722. There you go. 737 to 722. I'll stick to that. Probably going to be way off, but who knows? So, everyone, with that said, I am going to jet out of here. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of Wednesday Night Dynamite. Please, for anybody that's curious, since I have the picture, I might as well show you. For the wheel, for anybody that wanted to see what was available on the wheel, even though it was rigged, obviously, you had a blindfold match, a casket match, Chamber of Horrors, Bikers chain match, Buried Alive, Devil's Playground, Boiler Room Brawl, Shotzi's Choice, Weapons Match, Trick or Street Fight, and Tables, Ladders, and Scares. It would have, like I said, it was rigged. But you imagine if it would have landed on the Boiler Room? I mean, that's why you know. Because you do it in a Boiler Room, you'd have to have all these cameras set up, and there's no way WWE's going to have all this extra stuff on the side. So you start looking and thinking about some of those gimmicks, you know there was no way that they were landing on some of them. But I will give WWE credit for not having loads of ladders right around. So they made it look like the ladders match was not expected, so they started bringing the ladders out. I thought that was a very smart thing to do. They could have had the ladders all in the back, as part of the setup, and then bring them to the ring. But the way they did it, I like that. But you knew pretty much where they were going, especially when you see Candice LeRae take the ladder spot like she did. I guarantee you they didn't say like, hey, in case it lands on tables, ladders, and scares, would you mind going through two ladders? And what if it doesn't? Then what does she go through? So you could pretty much, the more you think about it, everything, the whole match was designed for specifically that. But I thank you for the kind words, everyone. Once again, before you leave, if you enjoyed the show, I'd appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Totally respect it. Right on the post, let me know what you like tonight, what you think the ratings prediction is. We won't do prizes every week because obviously we're already doing contests, but maybe for bragging rights, post what you predict the ratings are going to be in the comments section. And anybody that comes the closest next week, I'll shout you out at the beginning of the show next week. Tell me what you think NXT and AEW's rating is. And maybe I will do a contest. From now on, announcing here, from now on, if you put your predictions, the ratings predictions in the comment section, and you end up nailing exactly, doesn't have to be both, but if you nail either AEW or NXT's rating exact, because I did last week, so if I can do it, anybody can. If you nail any of the ratings exact, then we'll do a prize. Maybe like a pair of shirts, or maybe like a $50 Amazon e-gift card or something like that. So, and obviously I'm not going to advertise that. I'll probably mention it every week from now on, but you have to obviously listen to the show to know about these contests. So, yeah. So we'll do that from now on. So now every week you post your rating. Now I will say this: don't try to pull a fast one that when the rating comes out, then you post your comment or you change it. If you edit your choice, you're not disqualified. Because I trust me, I try to think one step ahead, and I wasn't planning this tonight. I know me, that if I wanted to cheat, I would put my ratings down there, and as soon as the rating goes out, I would just edit it. And make it so even if I did post it 5 days earlier and I edit it, then it looks like I nailed it on point. So if you edit your prediction, automatically disqualified. And now that puts me on the hot seat. So now every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to post in the comment section who won. So nobody tries to post it after the ratings come out. So we'll have fun, man. Hey. So if anybody ever and if multiple people nail it, I will give out multiple prizes. I'll be honest, I'd be shocked if we would get anybody that nailed it every week. I don't think have to worry that 30 people are going to all nail the same rating. But if it gets out of control and I'm starting to lose my house, my condo over it, then we'll cease the contest. But everyone, I am going to exit this show without taking any of the costume off. I'm shocked because this has been itching me like you would not believe, but I hope you enjoyed this episode. Post your feedback. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you're not a subscriber to the channel yet, please do. As soon as we get to 20,000, we'll start taking calls. And remember, I did the Q&A on Monday, so if you did post questions for the last show, they are answered. It's sad when you go back and you hear what I said about Tracy Smothers, because that was before he passed. Just weird to have that happen the next day. But you could also post questions on that thread for the next Q&A, which I will be doing a week from this Sunday, which is actually going to be interesting because that happens to be the same day of the... No, is the AEW pay-per-view on Sunday or Saturday? No, AEW's pay-per-view is on Saturday, so we're good. We're good. So I could still do the Q&A next Sunday. So, all right, everybody, I'm out of here. Shout out to everyone once again, whether it's live or on the archive. Thank you for the support as always. And if you're around Friday night after SmackDown, join me. We'll do a SmackDown recap. We'll cover any news between now and then. We'll do the quarter-hour ratings for AEW and NXT. And I will pay a little bit more of a tribute to our fallen comrades, the Mike Frigerio and Tracy Smothers. Sad. But everyone have a great night. Be well, stay safe, and be careful, especially if you live in the United States, next week, because, you got Election Day coming up, and no matter what the outcome is, there's going to be turmoil in some streets. And I know some of you do live in some areas that are very, very dangerous when that happens. So be careful. All right. So good night, everybody. Much love as always. Ciao.